Still Poddable, Still Poddable. Boston Celtics, Still Poddable, Still Poddable. Oh yeah! Still Poddable, Still Poddable. Boston Celtics, Still Poddable, Still Poddable. And a 19.
Beat Rob, Jim, Packard, J. King.
Still Poddable, Still Poddable.
The Caesar on the court to get another ring.
Still Poddable, Still Poddable.
Everybody in the chat now sing.
Still Poddable, Still Poddable. Still Poddable, Still Poddable. The Boston Celtics, Still Poddable, Still Poddable. Oh yeah! Shut your ass up,
Welcome back to Still Poddable, the greatest, the best, the elite Celtics podcast out here on Al Gore's internet. I am Sam Jam Packard, joined today by Jay King from The Athletic. This is the free show of the week. We are a Monday through Friday Celtics podcast. This is one of the free show, but we got you with Celtics content every day of the week. If you want more, go to patreon.com/stillpoddable. Subscribe today. Join the community. Because this is the free show, we are on the CLNS YouTube page. Brought to you by Prize Picks and Game Time app. Use promo code CLNS to save on those fine products. Jay, the Celtics are coming off a stretch of 5 games in 7 days. They went 3-2.
I'm exhausted, so they must have been really, really tired while playing the Grizzlies.
At the Cleveland game, right? Or the day after Thanksgiving?
Yeah, that was there, yep.
Which is a tough road trip for the kid to draw there. If you were tired, they must have been quite tired, especially. Maybe that showed in their loss to the Memphis Grizzlies on Saturday night. I think, Jay, they went 3-2 during that stretch. 3 interesting games against, I would describe as contenders in the NBA, and then 2 easy wins against the Pistons and Heat. I guess, how do you think Celtics fans should feel about this team and how they matched up against kind of the better teams in the NBA right now?
I actually thought that they handled themselves well in the loss to the Grizzlies. That was an absolute scheduled loss. It was, 5th game in 7 nights. Just Al Horford's out. Sam Hauser gets injured. And so you turn to Cornette and Nimi together. You don't have any backup wing you trust. Maybe an issue, but still, they came back from 14 down. I thought it was just they didn't shoot well at all and still came back. I just thought, given the schedule, it showed a lot about them, that they didn't give in, that they came back, that even with Jrue Holiday wide open and missing everything, they were able to make that a game. The Jrue Holiday thing, that was weird, wasn't it?
Yeah, he was one of the best 3-point shooters in the league last year, and I feel like the strength of the Celtics team is you can't leave anyone open like that. We've seen the Warriors do this last year with Jaylen Brown, and he kind of punished them and made them pay. But just to give a guy who's that good of a shooter that much space and just basically begging him to shoot, and then for him to shoot, what was he? 4 for 17 for Jrue Holiday to get up 17 threes it's kind of wild, but
that could take 2 weeks.
Yeah, that's just not normally part of his game. The thing that obviously the Grizzlies do this for a reason, and if you look at the numbers this year compared to last year for Jrue, especially on corner threes, which is kind of his bread and butter, he's not shooting nearly the same percentage. And I feel like because Payne Pritchard has taken so much more of a step in terms of add-in volume scoring, maybe we're not noticing as much Jrue's offensive backslide, I guess, because he's not nearly putting up enough numbers. But am I overreacting here, or is this just a normal kind of slump that you expect to see from players when you shoot that many threes?
Probably just the ebbs and flows of a season would be my guess. He has been dealing with a knee issue, which kept him out of a couple games recently during this trip. He said that it was good for him to get a couple games off. That's something that he thinks it's just because he's played a lot of basketball over the last few years. Seems like some wear and tear there. So that could be part of it. But I think also, like, you just don't shoot 60-something% from the corners. Like, he was probably due for some regression there. He's not going to be at 33% or 32.8%, which he's at right now forever, though, either. He's going to start making shots. It speaks to how good the Celtics are, that the strategy against them for Memphis was to just leave Jrue Holiday wide open, because, like, you can say what you want about his percentages this year. He's not the guy you want to leave open. And I think if you leave him open consistently over a large sample size, he will make a high percentage of those shots. But he missed them, and it was sort of like the Jaylen game against Golden State last year, where a team just tried something new. I wouldn't be surprised to see other teams try that too, but I also think if the Celtics get a wide open Jrue Holiday 3 every possession, then that will probably work out in their favor most of the time.
Yeah, I mean, he's basically their whole offense is designed is like for anyone not named Mimi or Cornette to, if they get that open shot, like they have done what they wanted to do on offense and they want that guy taking it. And so I feel like I don't begrudge Jrue for getting up all those shots because clearly they were open. I agree with you about the Memphis losses. Like Ja and Jaren Jackson had really good games. It was kind of a schedule loss. No one really shot that well from the Celtics. I think the thing that's always interesting, and this feels like the formula for beating the Celtics, is they once again got kind of just destroyed on points in the paint. And I felt like that their rim protection and defense, I think, has gotten a little bit better since Kristaps has returned and been kind of more of an anchor in the center, but it still feels like their weakest point of their defense is they're still just getting beat up in the paint a bunch. Just what have you seen since kind of the return of Kristaps, and how much has he affected kind of how they're playing defense and how well they're protecting the rim?
Yeah, I thought a lot of the points in the paint against Memphis were just transition buckets, and some of those were on Celtics turnovers. Some of it was just that the Grizzlies play fast. Ja Morant is really one of a kind in transition, and so I thought that was more so than like a lack of sheer rim protection. It was just like transition stuff against them, and that probably had to do with 5 game and 7 nights and just the opponent. Like the Grizzlies, if you're fatigued, that's a tough team to play because they're going to be attacking you the entire game. They want to play fast. They want to fly and run and gun, and Ja Morant is coming at you, and that dunk he had was absolutely bonkers.
After saying he wasn't going to dunk anymore, I knew that was bullshit as soon as he said it, because if you have the ability to do the clutch throwback, you're going to do that. Like you can't stop yourself from dunking. That's just a ridiculous idea.
Yeah, no, he's not going to stop. Just not happening. But yeah, the biggest question to me is how the Celtics will continue to evolve defensively with Kristaps back. And I mean that just stylistically, because, last year we talked about it. They played sort of like the Bucks used to, where they took away all your layups and dunks. That was the point of their defense. They gave up pretty open threes intentionally to the lesser shooters on a team.
And above the break, they took away a lot of
and above the break, yep. And they were very intentional about that. This season so far, they have been like taking away 3-point attempts, and their rim protection has suffered. Yes, but also like they get rid of some of the shooting variance that can come from like a random night when some scrub team hits like 23s against you because they get up a bunch of threes. So they've taken away some of that. I want to see where they settle. I don't think they'll like go all the way back to the style they played last season. I do think they want to take away threes more this season, but also with Kristaps back, you're just going to be doing different things. And so there's not like full clarity yet on what they'll be defensively, but I think it'll probably be like the 3-point numbers suffer a little bit and the rim protection goes way up.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because you think with Kristaps back, they might feel a little bit more comfortable running guys off the run and funneling teams or towards Kristaps, but I think it's just gonna be interesting to see Kristaps is like what his impact. He's only been back for 5 games now.
But it's more matchups, I think. Like he always guards a perimeter guy, right? Or often guards a perimeter guy. So just because of the matchup, like you're automatically giving up shots. Like he was guarding Marcus Smart for stretches of that game last night against the Grizzlies, and Smart was getting up pretty open threes, but those are the shots you're okay with. So
and how does that affect rebounding? Like if Kristaps is pulled out to the perimeter a little bit, it feels like there's been times when they've given up a bunch of offensive boards this year. I think it's going to be interesting to just see how that dynamic changes moving forward. You mentioned the Bucks. I thought that was like a very, like one of the more entertaining games of the season on Friday night. Both Dame and Giannis had 30 points. But the Celtics, and especially Jason Tatum down the stretch, just made clutch play after clutch play, whether it's an offensive end dishing the ball out, guarding Dame down the stretch. I feel like the Bucks have definitely recovered. They're not the terrible team they were to start the year. But I still feel like the Celtics are a little bit better than them. But where do you see kind of that matchup? And are the Bucks more of a threat in the East than I guess we thought?
I'm willing to give them time to figure it out. Time with Chris Middleton back. Time with, I think it's been big for their rotation to get AJ Green in there, to get Andre Jackson in there, kind of go younger, get more athletic. The Celtics definitely have a healthy respect for them. Like you can tell just by the way they play in those games, by what they say about those games. Like they get up for the Bucks still. They consider the Bucks games big ones. And Giannis is just such a force that I think you have to like give him respect, and you don't want to eliminate them. That said, there's a big gulf between the two teams, and I thought like if the Bucks didn't win that game when the Celtics shot very poorly, I don't think they had a single second chance point. It was like a part of this tough schedule with a hectic bunch of games, and I just feel like there's just a gulf there, a massive gulf, and the Celtics are able to attack Damian Lillard. They're able to attack Brook Lopez. They've gotten much better. Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown specifically have gotten a lot better at being physical, driving, not settling against matchups like that. So I don't want to dismiss the Bucks, but
They're clearly not as bad as they were to start the year, but I agree with you. They're not in the upper echelon of teams.
that was a fun game though, wasn't it? That was
probably the most fun game this whole year.
the refs let him play. It was it Sid? It was chippy. Jaylen Brown is chirping Giannis, and
I like the new Jaylen Brown Giannis beef. That all that coming from the childish not giving him a handshake, but I enjoy the chippiness of that. I enjoy. Like, it's too bad they don't play again. They've played all 3 times this year, and they will not see each other unless they play each other in the playoffs. That is definitely too bad, but it was definitely the most fun, like a nice clutch game. And for all the kind of like Jrue Holiday missing so many shots against the Grizzlies, he's the one who came up big with that like clutch little floater at the end of the game that really clinched it. And so that's got to be sweet for Jrue doing that against his old team.
Jason Tatum in the fourth quarter of that game was so good. He started it off with the 2 threes with Brook Lopez, not even like that far back in pick and roll coverage. And then just like the Bucks double teamed him a couple times. He threw that sweet lefty pass to, I think it was Holiday cutting it to the middle. He had like 2 or 3 other lefty passes that were just perfect. Like that was absolutely high level basketball from Jason Tatum in that quarter. to rescue the Celtics after I think they were down 4 early in the quarter. So when he plays like that, they just reach another level. And he was just dissecting the Bucks that whole fourth.
Yeah, it feels like he's really. I feel like we keep saying this, but he just continues to get better with the ball in his hands and commanding. There's like really, I don't see any team beating the Celtics 4 games out of 7 at this point. Like there's nothing I've seen in this season so far that makes me think the Celtics.
What adjustment can they make? There is no adjustment.
You can make an adjustment, but they're going to adjust to your adjustment. Tell me what team, like, how are the Celtics? Have the Celtics done anything to dissuade you from the fact or the belief that they're going to win the championship this year?
No.
That's all
No.
I'm trying to say.
They have not. They've been fantastic. If anything, they have like, and Jrue's shooting is like right now a little bit of a concern. I think obviously like Kristaps' health is a concern that won't go away. He started hobbling in that game against the Grizzlies.
Was that the same ankle that the surgery was on, or is that a different ankle?
That's a good question. I'm trying to think.
It was the surgery was on the left, right?
5 games in 7 nights. My brain is dead. So that's a concern that won't go away. But I would argue like they've had
played their best basketball yet.
Most of their developments are positive too. Like Peyton Pritchard took a leap. Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown are throwing more assists per game. Those guys continue to be more physical and continue to play team basketball. And like the defense hasn't totally come around yet. It hasn't been what it was. But I think with Kristaps back, and it seems like they can reach another level when they need it. And that Bucks game was a pretty good display of that. I thought they just in that fourth quarter played such good defense. There was a 1 possession against Damian Lillard where Tatum's out there just shadowing every movement and then contests perfectly to force a Lillard missed 3. Just incredible defense. And so I do think the defense can still ratchet it up. It hasn't always been that high so far. But those stretches, they let you know, like, yeah, we still got it, guys.
And if you want to see the Celtics, maybe play some defense, play some better defense, or just see any sporting events, you got to use the Game Time app. Game Time is the best way to find deals for high-profile events. They got Game Time picks to make it easier to save on sports, concerts, comedy, theater, and more with all-in pricing, seat views, the lowest price guarantee, and Game Time ticket coverage. Your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. So you want Game Time today to possibly, another game against the Pistons at TD Garden. Use the Game Time app. And you take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the app, create an account, and use the code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code CLNS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. Now, Jay, they missing, sadly, they're missing the NBA Cup. And it's created a lot of a time off here. Now do they just get why did they get to play the 2 worst teams in the Eastern Conference? Well, maybe the Pistons aren't that bad, but they got their 2 makeup games scheduled with the Pistons and the Wizards.
Well, part of it is that the teams, you're only going to play the teams that didn't advance. So not by definition, but by logic, many of those teams are lesser teams. At least
I think the real thing is so every team in the East, they play some teams outside of their division 3 times and some teams outside of their division 4 times. And I think the logic is they just don't want to have anyone play anyone 5 times for some scheduling balance. And so it had to come from the pool of teams that only played 3 times. And it just happened to work out that they play the Pistons, who actually played the pretty tough game against them. I know Jason Tatum didn't play in that game, but it was a closer play. Marcus Sasser played with a lot of energy. I'm expecting a Sasser to come back with more sass on Wednesday night. But it feels like the Celtics are in cruise control at this point. Like, what?
I think the best thing that happened to them was to not make the NBA Cup next round. You get 2 weeks with 2 games, like a nice lull in their schedule. They have 3 off days in a row starting today, and they needed to just kind of reset, recharge their batteries, and then they get to probably wipe up the Pistons and the Wizards, add 2 easy wins. Like this was a nice stretch for that, especially like January. They've got 2 long road trips in January coming up. I think it was really good for them not to make the next round of the NBA Cup.
Are you excited about the Cup now that we actually have single elimination and its matchups? Excited is not the word. I feel like you're not an excitable person, but are you intrigued?
I'm not a real person.
I feel like if I asked you a question and asked you if you were excited about something, your default answer would be saying no.
Chances are you would only ask me about like dumb stuff. But I get excited. I get excited for good basketball.
Do you think the NBA Cup will be good basketball?
Yeah.
I feel like it's like 4 pretty good matchups. I'm like, actually, despite the Celtics not being in it, now that it's not pool play, now like I understand people don't like the point differential thing, but now it's just a simple 8-team tournament, and everyone loves March Madness for a reason, single elimination. But I think it's 4 pretty good matchups. Although
Magic have nobody left.
Yeah, that's a really tough blow for the Magic.
With their guys versus Knicks is not really.
The Hawks are frisky. The Hawks have 6 in a row.
They are frisky. Dyson Daniels and Jalen Johnson. I like those guys a lot.
DeAndre Hunter's playing well too.
The Maverick Thunder should be a great one though, and Warriors Rockets should be awesome.
All right, give me your picks. Who's going to win the Cup?
The Thunder are going to win the Cup.
I think it's going to be Rockets over Hawks. I think Ime's going to coach them up. The Rockets are playing crazy defense right now. They're going to try to.
What would Dillon Brooks do for $500,000?
What would Dillon Brooks do for free? I don't like Dillon Brooks because it doesn't seem to be motivated by money. He's motivated by pure spite. But I think it should be fun. But I agree with you. Getting back to the Celtics, like if they had done had all of these games and then had to go play a Cup game, then go to Vegas and play 2 potential more games, I think it just would have been disastrous for this whole team. Maybe not disastrous. That's wild hyperbole. But the biggest question for me for the Celtics, and it's not even a question, I think the thing that's most important for the Celtics is just health. They need to have they have a deep enough roster where they can get away with resting one guy here, or even a couple guys from game to game. But as long as they avoid long stretches of missed games by any of their big guys, it feels like they're well on their way to 65, 66 wins. And so it's really just and I think the one way to surefire end up with more injuries is just to overload the games. And so I do think getting these 2 weeks is basically the biggest thing standing in their way of. I still think they're going to win get first seed in the Eastern Conference, despite the Cavs having a game and a half or 2-game lead at this point. I still think the Celtics, the Cavs are going to come back to earth a little bit. They started off with a pretty easy schedule, and just nothing seems to be slowing down the Celtics at this point.
Yeah, I mean, and we'll see though. I mean, you got to get through January. You
got to get through February too.
But January is a tough month for their schedule. Their road trips in January are like really, really difficult. I'm pulling them up right now, but they play some legit teams in January. Let's pull this up right now. All right.
While you're pulling that up, I just got to tell the people about the fine folks at Prize Picks. Prize Picks, you can get 100 times your money with those 4 correct picks. They invented a new way to flex play, which means you can still cash out your lineup even if it's not perfect. You can double your money even if one of your picks doesn't hit. Sign up for Prize Picks today. You get $50 instantly when you play your first $5. You don't even need to win to receive $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Prize Picks also offers weekly promotions that can lead to big payouts like Taco Tuesday. Each Tuesday, Prize Picks discounts a select player projection up to 25%. More value for your lineups. Download the app today. Use promo code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That is $50 instantly when you use promo code CLNS and play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. All right, Jay, let's hear about what the schedule is in January.
Starts off at Minnesota, at Houston, at Thunder, at Nuggets. That's the first road trip.
That's all over the place.
Then they come home for a couple games. Still have a couple of not super tough ones, but Frisky Hawks are in there. Frisky Magic are in there. If they have their guys by then, January 17th, they probably will. And then they go on another road trip, Golden State, Clippers, Lakers, Mavericks. And then come home to play Houston again. That's a tough month. That's a really challenging month. So I know you're very confident in the Celtics reaching the top of the standings again, and maybe they will. They're fantastic at basketball, but I do think this is going to be a really demanding stretch for them coming up in January.
The thing that I think I like about the makeup of this team is that even in their 2 losses this week, a very close game against the Cavaliers in which they were in it, and it kind of had a tough execution down the stretch. Didn't really make a lot of shots in that fourth quarter and let the Cavs get back in that game. And then Donovan Mitchell just went crazy. But I like their effort. I like their process. And they made it a close game. As you mentioned in this Grizzlies game, even in the schedule loss, they battle back to try and put themselves in the game. It feels like they're at a level of basketball where they've lost 4 times this year?
5.
5 times? All of those have been within 4 or 5 points. They're putting themselves in at least all of these games. We've not seen the Celtics absolutely get blown out. And that I think that I'm curious for you, Jay, you were around the team for the past 5 days, traveling with them. I'm curious, what your feel is on it always comes back to the phrase championship habits with me, just because that's a Brad Stevens phrase. But how do you feel like this team is makeup, approaching a road trip like that, or just making sure they're going to get play in these tough games? Because last year they were very much business-like, and they had this mission. They're absolutely destroying teams. This year doesn't feel like they've been as dominant, and just in terms of not winning games by 20 to 30 so regularly. But I'm curious, you being around the team, has their approach changed, or does it still feel like there's this kind of business-like assassins just ready to win at any point?
They're business like assassins. And even after the loss of the Grizzlies, I think all the guys kind of acknowledged that it was a tough stretch physically, that game was going to be challenging. And I thought Jaylen kind of said it best. He's we fought, we didn't let go of the rope. We know what this journey is. We're not going to skip steps. And he was pretty adamant. And they feel like that nights like that, even though they lost, nights like that are where you can build something, where you can, a lot of teams in that situation, you fall down by 14 to the Grizzlies, and they've got all the energy because they're playing the defending champs. And that would have been an easy night to just pack it in, go home, pack it up, go home, and lose by 20 or 30 and say, we'll try again next time. Instead, they make a spirited comeback, and you don't want to talk really about moral victories for the defending champions because that's stupid.
Process victories.
I do think that they believe that on nights like that, when you have to fight through stuff and it doesn't come easy, that they find value in that. And so, yeah, I think their mentality has been very good from the start. All the quotes about them, and I think quotes can often be like telling. Like a lot of the time, locker room quotes can give you just kind of a window into the mindset of a team that maybe the results aren't showing yet, and based on everything they've said, they all feel very confident and excited about the way that they've approached it so far.
And I feel like that's the confidence that I have in them, of like dealing with something like, the two road trips in January. It just feels like they have, even in their 5 losses, they've not, I feel like, been challenged is the wrong word, but they haven't been really smacked in the mouth, and there hasn't been a game where I feel like, or I'm not confident the Celtics are at least going to put themselves in a position to win. And so if you're just constantly putting yourself in situations where you have a chance at the end of the game, which it feels like they have in every single one of their games, again, coming back to it, injuries are the only thing that it feels like can really slow them down.
Yeah, and it almost feels like they reach another level of competitive spirit when things are going wrong for them. Like the loss to the Grizzlies was the first time they've lost this season while shooting less than 33.3% on threes, which is crazy. They won their first 6 such games, and the Bucks game was one of them. And it's like things aren't going well. A lot of teams can splinter, crater. You stop trusting what you're doing. You stop working hard defensively, and the Celtics just believe in it, and they keep trusting what they're doing. It seems like their defense even reaches another level when your shots aren't falling.
They have a way to ratchet up their defense, which I think if you want to have criticized them, is that they don't do that consistently, but they clearly have like another gear they can get into when they are down. Or I just remember back to like the Cleveland game, the first Cleveland game when they were undefeated, like that first quarter, it's like, oh, the undefeated team is coming in. And I think that's kind of to be expected in a long season, but they do. And I also think on the offensive end, they like when they need to lock in, it feels like they've done a very good job of there. It's like, all right, we know the offense we're going to get to. We know the type of stuff we want to do. It's a lot like Tatum White, 2-man action, or it's just getting the ball in Tatum's hands down the stretch and relying on him to make a play. But I do feel like they have this like kind of winning time formula where Celtics teams of the past, they got so much criticism for not necessarily knowing how to handle situations in the clutch. But it feels like this team, whether it's like, and you're going to go through runs because basketball is a game of runs. You're going to go through like some times where you miss some shots, but it feels like this Celtics team, no matter what, there's just a confidence that like they're going to figure it out. And they'll figure out a way to get back into the game.
And Doc Rivers has kind of mentioned that a couple of times when they played the Celtics, that he calls them a made team. And basically he thinks that when you win a championship, you just kind of carry yourself differently. You like, there's no doubt anymore. And I think there's probably some validity to that. Like, they know that what they do works, and they don't need to deviate from that. They don't need to doubt it. Like, when things aren't going wrong, they just play the same way and keep creating high quality threes and keep trusting that Tatum and Brown will make the right plays, and more often than not, they do. And so, yeah, I really thought like that Grizzlies game was a big test and a huge challenge. And I really thought they kind of attacked it pretty well. I know I'm hyping up a loss way more than I should be, but that was a really tough game. Like, that was, given the schedule, one of the toughest games of the entire season. And for Peyton Pritchard to come out and kind of lead a comeback and them to take a lead, I know they didn't end up holding it, but that was a very good effort.
Yeah, they just didn't play, I think, good enough defense especially in that first half, but that's kind of to be expected. Before we get to the moment of the week, I do think we need to debate who's the third best center on this team right now? Who are you rolling with when the moment gets down to it and you need that third center off the bench? Is it the people's champion, Nemias Queta, or my champion, Luke Cornett? Or are you going with Xavier Tillman?
I'd go with Cornett. Cornett has proven over the last couple of seasons he can be very reliable.
He can get 6 blocks in a game.
He blocks shots. He finishes. But that said, I thought Nemi has some moments, and you can use him differently than you use Cornett. Like they switched him onto Damian Lillard sometimes. They switched him onto John Morant sometimes, and he's had some good moments against guards on the perimeter and in space, and that's a unique skill set, and not a unique, but a rare skill set for someone who's a 7-footer and can block shots the way he does. So I think you still have to continue just kind of harnessing that, see how you can continue to develop him, because there will be some scenarios where you want to play that type of coverage, and Nemi, and Horford, whether he's out because of back-to-back or in foul trouble or you need to give him a breather. I think Nemi, it's good to have somebody who can play a little differently. They have all their bigs play very differently, and I think that's a good thing for Joe to have, just kind of different clubs in the bag.
I think it's not like really an either or situation. It's just both of those guys are kind of innings eaters at this point, especially with Kristaps and Horford not really probably playing back-to-backs. And I think it's good that both those guys are effective. And I'm going to say it. I'm for continuing to play Nemi, as you mentioned. He has his moments. He provides you just a kind of a different style of big, but I don't think necessarily he's proven himself to be demonstrably better than Cornett. And so you kind of just need both of them. I do think Cornett, after defensive struggles earlier this year, has come to just played a lot more physical and has done a better job.
It was funny when he was like, yeah, I just decided I got to play more physical. I've been too conservative out there.
Yeah, Mazzulla just kind of challenged me. Didn't he say Joe said something about it? And he was just like, yeah, I'm going to be more aggressive this time.
Just chose to be more aggressive. He flipped the switch back on.
And it worked. He got 6 blocks in the game. You've never got 6 blocks in a game?
Me?
Yeah, I can't imagine.
I can't imagine either. There's no way.
No way. All right. We have no nominations for this, but it is time for... That sound you heard, if you were listening, means it's moment of the week. Jay, I think my first nomination is just the return of Marcus Smart to actually play a game against the Celtics. It was a cool moment, him getting his standing ovation, going over to guard Jason Tatum. That would be my nomination for moment of the week, but I'm curious if you have other ones. Well, I guess I have other ones as well, but I'm curious what you have.
Yeah, I think Smart's return has to be. I thought it was cool. Like, he brought his 2-month-old kid because he wanted the kid to meet all his friends on the Celtics. He wanted the 2-year-old kid to just kind of experience that night and take photos and stuff so they can look back on it later and have that memory.
I saw your tweet about it, and you said you had the caveat on there, like, not that the 2-year-old kid's going to know it, and then a bunch of replies to it was like, 2-year-old kid's not going to, 2-month-old kid's never going to know what's going on. I was like, yeah, no, he mentioned that in the tweet. Like,
yeah, literally said that in the tweet. Yeah, some people just can't read. They don't want to remember shit.
But at what point do you think Marcus Smart's ever going to return to the TD Garden and not get a ovation like that? Like, when is it no longer going to be a big deal? Or really never?
I think it'll always be somewhat of a big deal. But I think more so it'll be a big deal for him and his family. Like, he loves Boston. He's got family members, basically. He considers a lot of those guys family members. And, he met up with Brad Stevens before the game. He met up with all those guys. And just, so it was special for him. And so I think it'll always be special for him. I don't know how long it will be like emotional, like standing ovation for him.
Yeah. It also depends on how long he's playing. Like, he's coming off for the bench for the Grizzlies right now. I can't say he's playing his best basketball.
He had a
He had a tough game. He had a tough game a week ago against the Mavericks, kind of like blew a game there. It's love and trust forever from this side of the game, but I don't know how many times we're going to see Marcus Smart necessarily returning to play. And maybe this may be a cold and callous thing to say, but like, did the Celtics know something maybe that he was losing a step and kind of trade him at the right time?
I wouldn't say they thought he was losing a step, but they knew. How old is he now? 31? 30 years old. So they knew that at 29 years old and the style that he plays, that it was going to be tough for him to maintain that really high level of play for a long time. And so I don't think they thought he was losing a step or anything, but it figured into the calculations that he was a 29-year-old, like, if he's shooting defensive-minded energy guard, and if you lose a little bit of that energy, a little bit of that athleticism, then you'll still have the high IQ and the competitiveness and the will to win and all that stuff, but he would have had probably diminishing returns at some point over his next contract or so. So I definitely think that went into the calculations, but also a lot of it was like, free up Derek White, free up Peyton Pritchard, and we've seen that both those guys taking on bigger roles has been very important for the Celtics. In addition to getting Kristaps Porzingis, who unlocks so much for them when he's healthy.
Yeah. Other nominee, I think I agree.
And first-round picks, 2 first-round picks.
It was steal of a trade.
Even Marcus Smart said he would have done the deal. He's like, yeah, that was a great deal, guys.
Other nominations for moment of the week, I do think the end of the game, the Bucks, Al Horford coming down, hitting that 3 in transition was pretty dope.
What was Giannis doing?
This happens a lot with Giannis.
What were you doing? He's almost fully eliminated the 3-point shot from his game this year. Like, just doesn't take him anymore.
You hear the quote he said after the game where he's like, I'm going to take it again? Like, if I'm feeling it?
You're dumb. That was just a, like, competitive, like, make it next time type thing.
I'm going to make them both. Like, that's a Grant Williams, I'm going to make them both type statement.
You should not have taken that shot. That was absolutely not. Down 1, and you just play. It was a tired shot, though. And I think it speaks to one of the Bucks' issues, which is that they need their top 2 guys, top 3 guys now with Middleton, to do so much. Like, the Celtics are fortunate, and it's not usual, but they have so many guys they can go to run the offense for a little while, to make plays happen. If Tatum needs a little breather, like, you can have Jaylen Brown run the offense. You can have Peyton Pritchard run the offense. You can just hand the keys to Derek White for a little while. And
they have 6 guys who can go for 20 points every game.
Yeah.
Which is just wild.
Whereas Giannis is like putting his head down, putting his shoulder down, trying to overpower guys the whole game, and they need him to make a ton of plays because they're role players. You can't run offense through those guys. You just can't. They're either spot up guys like Green, or they're not really much of an offensive player at all, like Andre Jackson, or like they're Brook Lopez, who used to be a post up guy. Now he's just kind of a spot up guy, but they need Giannis so much. That was a tired shot. That was, I'm going to have a Bill Simmons moment here. That was like me when I'm like fat and out of shape, and I just pull up from like 30 feet because it's easier than going to the basket.
I've played in some of those pickup games with you. You get a little tired, you start jacking from three. It's like you play 3-point line to 3-point line.
Exactly. That's just how it goes.
That's better than me, who just doesn't shoot at all because I'm a coward. So, 6 eggs in one, 6 eggs also in the other, some might say.
Yeah. And then Horford just punished him right away. Horford, for him to still at 38 be as competent and highly successful guarding Giannis as he is
the best Giannis defender in the league, which doesn't make any sense. Do you think it's a mental thing at this point? Like he just knows Giannis's game so well because he's like gone up against him so many times over the past couple.
I'm sure that's part of it, but also it's like he's so smart and he's always been great at playing against guys who you can give some space to, and he's so physical. And
he's good against guards. He has to like pretend to like contest threes on. Like I can just imagine Trey or Steph Curry like beating him off the dribble there. But a guy he can see.
Yeah, like Donovan Mitchell gives him some problems too. But if he can like give you space and then just use angles and use his body and his strength and his balance, then there aren't many better defenders than Al Horford. And obviously with Giannis, that's just kind of what you do. You are giving him space. You're trying to take his enormous bumps. That man is so strong. Like he moved Jaylen Brown that one play. Like Jaylen kind of like tried to like just stand him up almost, and he just went right through and finished a layup. And it was like, that is a strong man you just bullied on your way to the basket. But then Jaylen got him back, and then did the too small. I do love their beef.
Doing a too small to a 6'11" guy is like,
I love that move.
You lose. It kind of loses all meaning.
I disagree. That's what you got to do it for. Like, you shouldn't do it to the guys that are actually too small.
Yeah, punch up or punch down. Not
punch.
Yeah. Speaking of Jaylen celebrations, this is not going to be moment of the week, but I think it's a moment worth celebrating. Dunking on Beef Stew and then doing a throat slash, like it's a bold move. Beef Stew's crazy. Beef Stew tried to fight LeBron James. Sure, he got fined $25,000 for the throat slash, but I think it was well worth it. And then Beef Stew tried to get him back, basically threw him into the fourth row on a rebound.
That was amazing. Just shoved it. Jaylen's just, he doesn't take any crap anymore. I don't know if
he did earlier. Yeah.
He was never a big crap taker.
Jaylen Brown does not take craps.
He never took much crap, but now he's definitely not taking crap. It doesn't matter who it's from, and I respect it because he often goes after the biggest, baddest dudes.
He's the enforcer of the Celtics. There's no one else on the team who's going to like play that role, or like even like feels like they play with an edge.
What was that clip? Was it Zebo who said to DeMarcus Cousins, like, in my hood, bullies get bullied?
Yeah.
I feel like Jaylen tries to bully bullies. Like that's his MO. He's just like, he doesn't go after the weak. He goes after the bullies and tries to bully them. It's a power move.
I feel like it's necessary for the Celtics. The Celtics are like a kind of a team of like nice guys. Like Tatum, if you bump him at all, he's just going to get up immediately and not like, have you ever seen Tatum get in someone's face, like another player? That's just not like part of his game. Derek White's not going to do that. Peyton Pritchard will talk some shit to Eric Spoelstra. That's another nomination for moment of the week is Peyton Pritchard knocking down a bunch of threes and just shaking his head at Spo. Not sure what that one was, but Peyton Pritchard, I feel like he'll talk some shit, but he's not getting in guys' faces. It's really only Jaylen Brown.
And I wonder, and Joe loves it.
Yes.
Like Joe loves it. Joe was asked that. I don't know if we're doing a shit Joe said.
We are right now. Here it is.
But the when he was talking about Jaylen's technical after, I mean, I don't even know if Giannis elbowed him. I know people were saying like the elbow looked like it kind of struck Jaylen, but I don't know if he meant to do it or what. Definite gray area there. But Joe loved that Jaylen then bumped Giannis and put his finger out at him. He wants that team to have an edge, and he wants them to use moments like that to energize them. And I think it did. And Jaylen's become that guy. I don't think he was always that guy. It's not like he shied away from things, but
he was like, with Smart on the team, he wasn't the emotional like leader of the team. I think there was like a need for someone to step up with Smart leaving. I feel like Jaylen has kind of definitely took on that mantle. And like, this is my like role. I'm going to be the second best player. I'm going to be the best player when Jason Tatum's out, like as he was in that Pistons game. But also like, if you need a bully, if you need an enforcer, if like Grant Williams body checks Jason Tatum, Jaylen's going to be the first one there to kind of like make something happen, give a hard foul, and basically do all that. And I feel like that's like, I don't know where that would come from on this team if it wasn't for Jaylen.
Yeah, I don't know if anyone would do it. Because Kristaps just wants to like smile and wink.
Yeah.
Just wants to smile and wink.
Al Horford just wants to get the ball inbounded as fast as possible. Like,
yeah, I don't think anyone else would do it. Jaylen just has to be that guy, and he is. And it seems like he's embraced that even more this season. He's bullying bullies.
It seems to be working for him. Celtics, as we've said, second best team in the Eastern Conference, are 19-5. Got some time to rest this week with a bunch of days off, so it should be good for them. Hopefully, we still haven't seen a stretch of them having their full, complete roster, and hopefully we'll get that in December just to see exactly what this team is. I feel like we got one game where we had Al Horford, Sam Hauser, and Peyton Pritchard as just like the three guys off the bench. And then I think Derek White got hurt in that game. So I'm just looking forward to an extended stretch of basketball to seeing the Celtics at full strength. Whatever happens, Still Poddable will be here for you Monday through Friday. Celtics podcast. We're on Patreon. Go to patreon.com/Still Poddable. Appreciate everyone on the Still Poddable community who helped fill out the survey, telling us what we can be doing better, what you like about Still Poddable. If you haven't yet, still please look in chat or look on the posts and fill that out for us. We'd be much appreciated. For B-Rob, for Sean Gauthier, not for Jay King because he yelled at me. I'm not allowed to speak for him, but for myself, appreciate everyone listening. And we'll be back later this week with more Still Poddable.
Still Poddable, Still Poddable. The Boston Celtics Still Poddable, Still Poddable.